Hi everybody, we're going to be looking at how to do a Vlookup in Excel. So, a Vlookup is useful when you need to find information based on a value that you already know. So an example could be, a team list of players, their names for example, and you need to know, what their score was. Let's say you had a list of their scores from a game, and you needed to know what their score was, but you only knew their names and you had the sheet in the other one, and for some reason you needed to get their values onto another list. What you could do is use VLOOKUP to accomplish this. So the way we could do this is, let's say, this is the name category, this is the score column. Let's say, Adam, Joe, Mike, Bob, Sherry, Diane, Jacob, and Marie. So let's say Adam got 50 score, Joe got 42, Mike got 53. I'm just going to plug in a bunch of random numbers. Who cares if Sherry got 789? Doesn't really matter. So there's our values there. So game one. So let's say we had player roster, for example. And let's say it had all these people, but let's say it also had, a bunch of other people. David, Derek, Ishnor, and let's say, who cares? Point is, there's enough there. So we have a score here, and we need to find the score for this player roster. So, more specifically, this is game one score. So we'll just do our VLOOKUP formula based on the name. So we're looking up, our lookup value is the name, Adam. In the game one sheet, we're going to look, the value you're looking for has to be the first column in the range of what you're looking into to get the information. So in this case, my first column, see how it says 1C up here when I'm holding the left mouse button down. It's sort of cool because it lets me know what column I'm going to be on, so that's very helpful when doing your VLOOKUPs. So at any rate, first column has to be the name because that's what I'm looking up by. Second column, just drag it over, 2C, so that's going to be the 2 that I put in my formula. So we're going to look in this range. You have to put the entire range that you want to look into. So we'll say 2C, comma, oops, screwed up my formula there. So we're looking up this value, comma, in here, comma, we're returning the second column, which is the score, and we're pretty much always going to choose false. Approximate match is a little more lax on what it pulls based on some of the information, but I've never had much luck with it. I prefer exact because I make sure that everything is exact. Adam, there's no extra spaces there. If I did have an extra space, it doesn't find it. So you got to be careful with that kind of thing. If I did true, it probably would find it. It found it. Problem is, what if you had 2 Adams or something slightly different? I don't know. At any rate, we're going to just focus on the false. So we're going to change that back to false. And we'll drag that down. It did not find Sam. Notice if I put approximate, it found a value that it felt was close. Clearly, Mary and Sam aren't even close. I guess they have an A in it, but I just don't use it because if you don't realize there's errors in your data, and it tries to think it pulls the right information, and you don't catch it because it doesn't look like there's an error. And it's just better off to see these NAs so it alerts you, so you know, okay, I gotta go look at the data, see why is it finding an A, why didn't it find it. I know the name's there. It's likely there's a space after or before or something like that, something silly that throws the formula off. So I prefer false because it doesn't leave that room for error. So yeah, so basically these guys weren't in game one, and there's my score for game one using the VLOOKUP. Um, yeah. If I needed to know team, for example, let's say that was in there as well. Team, red, 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 blue, blue, blue. I don't need to type that again. Red. Okay, so there's our team. So we can go back to the player roster, and we can do equals Vlookup name. Actually, we don't need to rewrite it. We got it right here. Let's just copy that. Paste. So we need to change it to the third column because that's where the team is. We get a reference error because we're trying to pull the third column when we were only looking in 2 columns. It's out of bounds. You can't do that. You need to tell it exactly where you're looking. So we'll change that B to a C. And I found it. Look at that. It's amazing what happens when you tell computers the right thing. Alright, again, these guys weren't in game 1. So, yeah, they weren't found, which is good. And you could always fancy your formulas up. You could account for that error, and you could wrap this VLOOKUP formula. I'm just going to copy it so I have it, because I will need it to write it twice, because first I have to check if it's an error. So I'm going to say if is error, and it will look at this formula, it'll try to evaluate it, and then it'll tell me, because of the is error formula, it'll say I'm going to evaluate it, I'm going to check if it's an error. If it's an error, you can show, you know, not found, for example. Otherwise, if it's false, if there is no error and the formula was good and it returned something, we just want the formula to go, so I'm going to paste that formula back in without the equal sign, obviously, because the equal sign only is at the beginning of the formula or when you're checking values. In this case, the if statement checks values by comma separated, if it's true, if it's false, and you put the test at the first, so that's what I did. This is my test. Then comma. Notice how the bold of the formula changes as I select into the appropriate section where I should be changing what I'm looking for. So if it's true, if it is an error, that the VLOOKUP is an error, is returning an error, we're going to say, you know, just show me the text not found, because it's cleaner, it's nicer, it's more, you know, complete feeling. And then if it's not, if the value is false, if there was no error, we do want to return the value, so we'll let the VLOOKUP go ahead and work in that case. And then we just enter our if statement, enter down. Now when I copy this and paste it down again, all the NAs, instead of showing the ugly NA, we see not found. Okay, same thing here, if is error. I'm going to copy that, and then we want to show not found. And then just paste it again. You can do anything there. You can change not found to whatever you want. I just chose not found. So yeah, there you go. VLOOKUP. Pretty cool.